This is the phone you guys have been asking me to cover for a while now, and honestly, this one's got a lot of people excited. Say hello to the Vivo X200 Ultra. Today, let's get this phone unboxed and check out what Vivo has cooked up for their camera-focused 2025 flagship. If this is your first time here, or in case you just can't remember, my name's Ash, you're watching C4E Tech, and let's get started. So here's the box the X200 Ultra comes in. First, I'm gonna remove that protective plastic. Now this box, it's got that fall leather-esque texture that we've seen before. And once we open it up, the first thing we see is the Vivo X200 Ultra itself. Guys, I picked up the white variant. Vivo also offers this in black and red. The red looks stunning, but honestly, I really like the dual finish on the white. The stripes at the bottom, that plain white at the top, looks really sleek. Next up, there is a color-matched silicone case, your regular quick start guide, and that is followed by a USB Type-A to Type-C cable, the SIM ejector tool, and finally, a 90-watt Vivo flash charger. Now this phone, it packs a 6000 mAh silicon carbon battery, and with that 90-watt charger, it can charge from dead to full in under 50 minutes. Plus, it supports 40-watt wireless charging too, super convenient. Looking at the build, it's this camera array that first caught my eye. Generally, with phones with this kind of big camera arrays, the whole thing kind of slopes outwards, as in it kind of melts to the back. That's the effect brands go for. But here, Vivo's gone the other way. They actually pull it inwards at the base. This is a very deliberate choice. Vivo's trying to make this camera array feel like a lens that's protruding out of a camera body. I really like this design. It feels unique to me. Now this back, it is matte glass and the stripes look pretty good. They resist fingerprints quite well. Even the metal frame, it has a matte finish, so it's less prone to smudges. And on the right side, Vivo's added an Apple camera control-esque button. Now double press this, it launches the camera. And by default, it adjusts exposure, but you can set it to switch focal lengths or adjust zoom instead. I really like how Vivo lets us use this as a two-stage shutter key, light press to lock focus, long press to shoot. Pretty neat. The edges here, they are chamfered, and both the back and the display have a smooth 2.5D curve at the very edges. Now the X200 Ultra, it's a big boy, around 230 grams, but those curves, they do help make it more comfortable to hold, even with that huge camera bump. Now the display, it's a large high-resolution AMOLED panel, very fluid with variable refresh support. It gets super bright too. I measured over 1900 nits, so you're gonna have no issues using this one outdoors. Now in low light, this phone uses high-frequency PWM dimming at 2160Hz, so flicker is minimized. Of course, being an ultra flagship, this Vivo phone, it's powered by Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Elite. Vivo's done a good job of running it cool. Even during a stress test, temperatures never went past 43 degrees. But to be honest, the stability scores, like with other non-gaming 8 Elites, it's nothing to write home about. Now all that's cool, but I'm pretty sure the reason why you're watching this video, the reason why you're interested in the X200 Ultra, is probably predominantly due to this, the optics, right? So let's talk about that next. In recent years, it's become common for brands to launch ultra-premium flagships that heavily emphasize the optics. A typical feature of these phones, it's been that 1-inch type primary sensor, a trend that Vivo helped pioneer. But the X200 Ultra does not feature a 1-inch sensor. Now, this is not some kind of compromise or corner cutting, but rather a deliberate out-of-the-box decision. Vivo instead has chosen to go with a Lite 818, a 1x1.28 inch sensor, and they'd use this sensor for both the ultra-wide and what we can call the primary lens for simplicity. On top of this, for this primary, Vivo's opted to go with a 35mm equivalent lens instead of the typical 23mm wide angle. This means you get a tighter field of view, which brings with it some notable benefits. So what does that mean for you? So basically, this is great for portraits. You can really isolate your subjects. And because of the 35mm equivalent focal length, even without that 1-inch sensor, Vivo still managed to provide that gorgeous background separation. Honestly, I'm a big fan of 35mm lenses on phones. Nubia has been using it forever, and if you've seen my coverage of their phones, you'll know how much I love that focal length. But at the same time, 23mm is a focal length that we're all more familiar with, right? So what if you wanted to shoot at that? Now that's where the 14mm ultrawide comes in. Since it uses the same sensor and has a lens that's optically stabilized, this is easily one of the best ultrawides you'll see on any phone. And here's a little pro tip. If you wanted to shoot wider than 35mm, don't just stick with 23. try shooting at 28. I've got an example here. Now if you look at these set of images, one was taken at 14mm, the other at 28. When I digitally zoom in that 14mm and we see these images side by side, you can see that the 28mm shot looks better, right? That's because at 28mm, Vivo's actually sensor cropping, so your image actually has more information. Now another advantage of having a solid ultra-wide is that you can shoot ultra-steady videos that aren't too cropped in. Now that's because when you shoot ultra-steady, what the phone is doing is cropping in and using that excess space to compensate for the shake. And when you are using such a large sensor ultra-wide for that, you get great results even with ultra-steady shots. Now one disadvantage of stabilization, or rather EIS, is when you're looking to shoot a pan shot, right? The first intent of the camera is to stabilize the footage. So a lot of times you get a jerk like this early on. That's basically because the phone tried to stabilize the footage before it realized you're panning. And this at times, like say when you're panning with a tripod or shooting with a gimbal, in these instances you don't even need EIS, right? And that is where this comes in. Vivo lets you turn off EIS altogether when shooting, so you get to shoot without any crop and none of that jerkiness. And yes, the X200 Ultra can also shoot in log, and Vivo does provide a LUT for it. Some people see this as a big plus. Honestly, I'm not a big fan. Even with the LUT, there's not a lot of room for flexibility. But that said, if you like messing around with log footage and LUTs, Vivo does let you do that. And then there's an 85mm equivalent 200 megapixel HP9 for telephoto with AI when you use that long range zoom. So you get results like this. This sensor hasn't changed since the last time, but the lens does have a faster aperture, so the results are even sharper. Now, if you want even more reach, Vivo sells a photography kit with a telephoto converter that gives you 200mm of reach. It seems to be an interesting piece of tech, though it doesn't feel too practical. Personally, I don't see myself using it, because if I had to carry that around, I might as well carry my A7C II with me, right? But hey, it is an option. If you want to use it, you can, and it does look pretty cool. Guys, long story short, brands these days, they tend to play everything a little too safe. How do I explain this? Now let's say they have two choices, you take path one, you get great specs but slightly below par experience, it doesn't really translate, or you choose part two or option two, the specs don't look great on paper, but it is actually very beneficial to the end user. You more often than not see brands choosing option A or path A or whatever it is that I said. You get what I'm saying, right? But here, Vivo, they've not done that. They've actually taken an on-paper spec hit, but consumers seem to benefit from the choices they've made. I really like the camera setup on this one. Personally, I feel this was a brave decision, not removing the headphone jack. Also, to give you some perspective, just look at the range spread of a few recently launched Ultras. Which one do you think feels more even? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Now the X200 Ultra, it starts at 6499 RMB in China, and converted prices should be on screen now. For that price, I feel Vivo's done an excellent job. This feels like the best camera phone on the market at the moment. I do love my Find X8 Ultra, but that 35mm lens, all the video functionality on offer, and especially the contrasty portraits that this Vivo shoots, despite recently making a choice to hold on to the Find X8 Ultra as my primary for a few months, I kind of find myself leaning more towards this one. Vivo's done a great job with the X200 Ultra, guys. But then again, that's just what I think about it. What do you feel about this phone? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. And thanks for watching. Ash out.